Hello, YouTube, and hello, Ninth Age community. This is Charles with Evershade Gaming, and I have another Ninth Age battle report. This is Buckeye Battles Round 2, and I've got my favorite classic matchup. It's Empire of Sonnstahl versus the Beast Turds. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is the glorious men of Sunna facing those dirty goats in the forest, and we have a picture of my list that I took to battle Buckeye Battles 2020. I'm not going to go over it, but just wanted to put it up so everyone can see it. My opponent round 2 of Buckeye Battles is Mr. Neil Hamilton. He's rocking his Beast Turds, and he has a Beast Lord. That's the general. A hunting call. He's on a razor tusk chariot. He's got a shield, heavy armor with basalt infusion, beast axe with fatal folly, and a talisman of shielding for a nice, cozy 2-up, 5-up. Then he's also got a soothsayer wizard master with druidism, see the dark forest, and a pesky binding scroll. Then my opponent has a beast chieftain who's a greater totem bearer on a raiding chariot with a shield with the Dusk Forge enchantment, and he's got a Battle Standard Bearer upgrade to be the BSB, and he's got heavy armor with Alchemist Alloy, Beast Axe, and Dragonfire gems. So those guys are quite fire resistant. And then my opponent has a Centaur Chieftain with just light armor and paired weapons. Then he has 27 Mongrel Herd with Spears and Musician Champion. He's got two things of 15 Wildhorn Herds with Throwing Weapons, Ambush, and one his Musician. Then he has 10 Mongol Raiders with Ambush and Scout. He's got 8 Feral Hounds. And then he has 7 Minotaurs with shields, as they should be. And a champion upgraded with the Totem Bearer bearing Black Wing. He's got 14 Centaurs with, oh boy, great weapons with a champion that also has a Totem Bearer that has the Blooded Horn Totem. Then my opponent has 5 Gargoyles with Scout, a Razor Tusk Herd, and a... What's that at the bottom of the list? No, I think that's it. He's playing a 4,000 point list. Oh, wait, sorry, I missed it. Oh, he's got a Gortok. So yes, that is my opponent's 4,000 point Beast Herds list. For our objective and deployment, we're playing Refused Flank for deployment, and our objective is Breakthrough. So interesting objective against Beast Herds with all that ambushing. I'm never, a huge fan of Refused Flank, just because I always find it just can be so wacky. I chose the same spells from my first game, so just kept the same picture. Easy on myself. And then this is my opponent's Druidism spells. So he's got Stone Skin, Summer Growth, and Twining Roots, and Healing Waters. And of course he's got, pretty much all the totems and a couple different totems on some champions. But I find most most players are pretty familiar with those, so no picture of them. This is my deployment, so my opponent got to choose table side again, so I was able to start deploying first, and decided just to drop and go for turn 1 again. I figure with Pyromancy against Beast Turds, turn 1 will be very valuable, and I've got enough redirectors with the Riders to sort of turn any ambushers around or sort of do anything, so I felt pretty good about that. Yeah, so starting on my left, I got my Riders with the repeater guns next to my Steam Tank, and then I've got my Imperial Guard with my Wizard Master of Pyromancy. In my big unit of the Knightly Orders with Cavalry picks, I have my Battle Standard Bearer, Marshal, my Prelate, and my Knight Commander. Next to my Knights, I have my 12 Crossbowmen. And then I have my 24 Flagellants, sort of in the middle of my deployment. And then I have my Electoral Cavalry, and I put my Inquisitor in there, mostly because I thought it could be nice to space them out. The Inquisitor really doesn't have any ranged threats in this game, so he could pretty much go wherever he wanted So I thought that might not be a bad idea to start. And I have one more unit of 5 riders with a brace of pistols finishing off that line. And I have a unit of 5 brace of pistol riders sort of deployed in that water feature just to kind of zone the back of my board so he couldn't drop any of his ambushers back there, since he did have 2 ambushing units, or I mean 2 scouting units. So that was my deployment. Looking at my opponent's deployment, he does a kind of a bit of a big castle on me in one corner. So yeah, so he ends up really kind of choosing one side of the board and sticking with it. He's got, starting on the left, he's got his centaurs with that are sober in starting the game, so they're going to build a vanguard with his character in it, his 14 with his one character. He's got his Gortok, and then on the hill he's got his 7 Minotaurs and his BSB in general on the hill, and then he's got his gargoyles out front, his mongrel raiders sort of behind the gargoyles. His soothsayer master is with the mongrel herd that is next to the hill. He's got that 3-headed pig kind of smushed between the mongrels and the mongrel raiders. And then he's got his 8 dogs to finish off the rest of his deployment. And you can see his 2 ambushing units of wild horns just sitting on the side of the board. So this is my opponent's first vanguard, and I'm just going to have a little disclaimer here. The start of this game definitely I felt was pretty intense, and I missed a lot of pictures, but they will start to pick up more as we get later into the battle report. So forgive me, I missed my vanguards and I completely missed my movement turn 1. Don't worry though, I remember to capture where I put my order turn 1. I put ready and fire on these bad boys, which was ended up being pointless because they just move and we go right into the magic phase turn 1. So I kind of realized I need to get rid of my opponent's chaff, so I toss Pyroclastic Throw at these dogs. Just not able to kill them. 1 left, so that was a little bit frustrating. And I toss Altered Sight on these riders with Peter guns. They vanguarded into the field and are basically just sort of staring at my opponent's centaurs. More than 9 inches away, but close enough so that they're all in short range. So these boys will be hitting on 3s. And this is actually sort of, pausing. We can actually see a bit of that turn 1 movement. So I want to say this is the steam tank shooting at the pig and doing a single wound with its cannon. And you can see I've, just basically turned everything. I am extremely, my knights just kind of went out and did a big wheel, which made him kind of far from all his, big meaty stuff, but very close for all the chaff. So he's not going to have a problem chaffing me. My crossbowmen they're just going to decide they want to walk into the deployment zone because it's breakthrough. And my, flagellants turn around. My Inquisitor leaves the knightly orders to get closer to the main battle, and the electoral cav, and the electoral cav are just trying to zone my backfield. These guys shoot and they kill 6, which was awesome. So thank you, Altered Sight. And this is going into Beast Herd's turn 2. So at the start of my opponent's turn, he decides to declare a charge against my riders right here. I want to say he needed a 9 on the dice, and he's got a reroll. I didn't really love fleeing because I felt like I wanted these models here, and I was interested in either drawing the Centaur closer or seeing if he could fail it. So I ended up holding. I think I stay and shoot at the Minotaurs. I think I actually poke a couple wounds on somehow, I think maybe hitting on 6s or something like that. And he ends up failing. So this is actually him doing his fail charge. So I was very happy about that. That ends up being the only charge my opponent declares. You can see them needing to be propped up with their failed charge. And this is the rest of my opponent's turn 2 movement. So he puts that dog out to chaff my knights. He does his own repositioning himself. So that, we're playing on one half of the board, actually more like 1/4 of the board, and everyone's sort of got to look on each other. Both his ambushers come on. One is going to try and work on the riders on the hill. The other one's going to try and get rid of the riders with the repeater guns. And chaffs my steam tank with its gargoyles. And he's still got his pig in the reserve, and he made it sure that if I go into his dog, I can't go into his mongrels. My opponent ends up getting stone skin off on on his centaurs. I let that go off. That was it for magic. Throwing weapons thankfully only do 1 wound, so these guys are going to be able to kind of maybe get out of there or maybe get away from these models. And then throwing weapons do 3 wounds over here, and I pass my panic. Very crucial passing of a panic test right there. I don't want to forget to where I put my orders, so I toss Steadyman on these guys over here. And I go into the gargoyles with my steam tank. I go into the dog with my knights. This is going to my magic phase, showing that my opponent binding scrolled Scorching Salvo, which was a good choice because he still had decent amount of little units on the board, and I was gonna be able to affect quite a bit of them. Toss a fireball at the pig, try and get rid of it. Can only poke on 1 wound. I toss a blaze at these guys. Do a wound there, I think. Able to get flaming swords off on the steam tank, and I think I blaze the pig again, and I can only poke on 1 wound. So fortunately, the flaming sword will be helpful to make sure those gargoyles are completely gone. The pig would have been nice to get this turn. And I get rid of the gargoyles in my turn, and this is actually going into Beast Herd's turn 2. My opponent decides to charge my knights over here with his Wildhorn unit. And you can see how the rest of the movement is. So I was able to chaff his BSB in general chariot unit with my rider's previous turn. So he charges the chaff. He chaffs me with his mongrel herd and sort of moves his soothsayer out to the mongrel raiders on the hill back there. And just some, repositioning. The Gortok, gets a little feisty and really moves up the flank over there, kind of threatening my wizard's unit and kind of, making me have to decide what I want to do with the steam tank this turn. The other unit of Wildhorns, by the Gortok, they just kind of hold fast. They don't really want to go anywhere. And the Centaurs, I think, give themselves a little bit of distance too, since I've, now moved my Inquisitor up, and he's also, he's doing a little bit of zoning of my own. This is my opponent's Flux card this turn. I think this is the only Flux card picture I have. He gets the Ronald High Totem up on his BSB and Generals unit. And they have no problem killing those riders. I have a good combat phase over here. I'm able to. I think I want to say I won combat by 1 over here, and the Wildhorns flee. So that was great because now these guys are free just to kind of go get in the deployment zone. And this is Empire of Sonnstahl turn 3. I charged the mongrel herd with my knights, and I also charged the Beast BSB and the Beast Lord with my Inquisitor, but he failed the charge. Very low roll, so he just goes forward slightly. And then I also put my steam tank into the Gortok this turn, and I move over the riders a bit, and just sort of move. And the flagellants are trying to get somewhere, but they are just completely, the board's, so choked where they don't have anywhere to get through. The Wizards unit's like trying to slide over a couple inches a turn, but it's tough. Hopefully they'll be able to get some into some action by the end of the game. In the magic phase, I want to say toss a fireball at the pig, and I just can't get it. I do blaze the Minotaurs, and I think I poke a one wound on them to get rid of a model. And I'm also able to force through Flaming Swords. I want to say a 5 dice this because I really wanted to make sure that Gortok was dead, and I'm just able to do the 6 wounds before it gets a strike. So that felt quite big because, yeah, just, a Gortok, can eat a Steam Tank if it gets the chance to. And I did not want it to have that chance. Beat up on the mongrels. My opponent really, I think he put all his attacks in on my characters, and I get just pretty lucky with my armor saves, and I don't really take any damage. So, I really beat up on them, and I let them go, and I just kind of turned to face everything. This is actually taking a pause for a second and getting a kind of an overview of the battle. This is at the going into the bottom of turn 3 now, and my opponent makes just declares one charge. His Beast Lord and his BSB decide to go into my Inquisitor, which I held, mostly thinking that he's not bad against either of them, and if I spike, it could be very deadly for my opponent. And with a 1-up rerollable armor save, and my discipline right there, I'm really not expecting him to go anywhere. My opponent puts in 20 Groots on me. I want to say this is him regrowing his Centaurs by a couple models. And it pretty much combats a pillow fight between the Beast Lord. The Beast Lord ends up challenging the Inquisitor. Nobody does any wounds. I ended up breaking on a Dishonest 7. I run through my Imperial Guard and my Wizard Bunker, and then I also pass through the Flagellants. And my opponent rolls a 7 to get into my Wizard Bunker. And it's at that time we both kind of realized, I need to take a panic chest on the Wizard unit just to kind of see what would happen. And what do you know? The most perfect combination of dice ever. Roll 2 10s in a row to fail my Discipline 9 rerollable panic test, and very conveniently get out of the way so that the Flagellants can finally get into combat. So yeah, the Wizard Bunker just decides that this is the perfect moment to strategically flee, and they end up right there. So this is going at the bottom of Beastard's turn 3, going into turn 4. So I charged the Centaur Hero, who you could see was chaffing me in that last picture. I'm able to get Ullr's Blessing up in the magic phase. My riders do a bit of charging into some of the fleeing units over here, and it's just trying to capture that right now. These riders chaffed up the Centaurs, and also were able to do looks like 3 wounds to them, which was nice. My Valiant Knight Commander smotes the Centaur Hero that was chaffing me, and get that sweet overrun into the Minotaurs. So that was good. I want to say it was at least a 9, which pretty decent overrun to make. Definitely could have just failed, especially since it would be going into my opponent's turn. But very happy to make it. And as you can see, the Flagellants did go into the 2 characters, and they really kind of can't do all that much against them. And he starts to whittle me down, but we do poke 2 wounds onto the Beast Lord General. This is going into my opponent's turn 4. He decides to charge the Wild Horns at the Steam Tank because he's also going to be able to overrun with his Centaurs after they beat up on these riders. You can see this combat is, I would say he just kills a few more here. I can't remember what this picture was. This might have been him getting up Oaken Throne or something. There's something about a spell, but it wasn't that impactful. You can see this combat's really starting to wind down now. In this combat, he got up healing waters on the Minotaurs, which I kind of let that through because I think I wanted to stop Stoneskin somewhere, and yeah, I mean, I feel like I ended up doing enough damage, and he put all his attacks on my characters again, and again, I just made some really good saves. I think it was mostly targeting my Knight Commander, and he just couldn't really do any damage to him, so that was fantastic. So these guys end up breaking, and I do not pursue them. They get up on that hill right there, the one off the hill is where they're at, and I just turn around and face the rear of these two guys. So Empire Sonnstahl turn 5, I charge the Beast Lord and the BSB, thinking, I mean, the Flagellants have wonderfully tied them up. As you can see, my Wizard Master and his Imperial Guard rallied, so did my Inquisitor, and they're now back in the game. They rallied on turn 4, and now they're, getting a little bit more back in the game right now. And my riders charge the. I think this might be the turn. The 4 riders in the middle right there. They might push off the mongrels, or I think they actually charge the minotaurs and get them to flee again. So they're over there, and I want to say maybe just fail charge with them. I get Ular's Blessing and Volan's Blessing off in combat, which was quite good. I finish off the. Oh yeah, sorry, jumping ahead a little bit. Yes, I want to say this is Beast Herd's turn 5, because you can see my opponent is chaffing me with his raiders. And you can see his Minotaurs have fled off the board. In the combat with the Beast Lord General and the BSB, I'm able to just finish off the Beast Lord General. The BSB, I think, had 1 wound left, and he flees, and I'm actually able to pursue him down with a single flagellant that was alive. So that was pretty great. He was also going to flee through my my Imperial Guard, and I just kind of figured he's going to take DTs and just die that way. So, but he ended up getting pursued down by a single lone flagellant, which is just a beautiful thing. So, and turn 5 Beast Herds, the Soothsayer Wizard is sort of behind these Wild Horns. He chaffs up the Knight unit with his Mongrel Raiders, and the Minotaurs have fled off the board. It's another good shot of kind of what's going on. This is actually Empire Sonnstahl turn 6. So you can see that one Flagellant still alive, just having a good time. I've got my crossbows in his deployment zone. I've got my knights in his deployment, or my electoral cabinet in his deployment zone. My Inquisitor charges into the Wild Horns to try and break them. And I'm having a little bit of trouble grinding through the Centaurs. I had him down to 1, and then he regrew them a little bit. And I think I've got 6 wounds on my steam tank, so I'm trying to keep it alive at this point. But those Centaurs with great weapons, strength 6, they can put some hurt on the steam tank, and they are putting wounds on it, as you can see. But thankfully, the steam tank stays alive. We get the rest of the Centaurs. The Wild Horns break. The Inquisitor catches them, and he almost gets into the Soothsayer Wizard, but he just can't quite get there. So my opponent's turn 6. Nothing happens. He's only got the Wizard, and the Wizard only has Druidism. So there really isn't a lot to do since there isn't anything to heal on the board, and this is where the game ends. This ends up being a rousing 20-0 Empire Sonnstahl victory. Yeah, definitely felt very hard counter deployment for my opponent, and felt like I did my best to manage it by the kind of way we turned around and sort of managed the chaff game. Very hard chaff war in this game for sure, between my riders and all of his chaff, and yeah, super lucky break with the Wizard Bunker just fleeing so that the flags can get in there and hold up the BSB in general for, I think, 3 rounds of combat. which let the Knights do their thing. The Knights did their thing this game. I feel like they just rocked it. Not only were they just eating up chaff left and right, they were able to get the Minotaurs, turn back around, get the General and the BSB, and just be a menacing threat the entire game. Felt a little underwhelming from the Inquisitor. He had a hard time hitting, which I think that's probably one of his biggest weaknesses, is just has a hard time hitting against that BSB and that General. So, yeah. But fun game. I want to thank my opponent. Feeling pretty good at this point in the tournament. Got 2 good wins, 36 points, 2 games. Not too bad. Going into my 3rd game, a bit apprehensive. 3rd games at tournaments are usually my worst game. It's usually the one where I just drop the ball. So I'm very curious to see who I'm going to play and what army it will be. Everyone, thanks for watching, and I hope we'll see you soon with another 9th Age Battle Report.